the Denver Broncos suffer a devastating loss, 42-17 to the Detroit Lions. They now fall to 7-7 and are in a position where, in order to make the playoffs, they are going to have to win all three of their remaining games. They cannot afford to have another stumble at this point. They have to win out, and they have to play better than they did today. Going into next week against the New England Patriots, if they play like they did today, I am not confident in that being a victory, let alone against a Raiders team that hung 63 points against the Chargers. There's a scenario in the final three games where the Broncos go 1-2, quite frankly. But this is a loss that could also really kick the Broncos, you know what's in gear, and can also put them in a position where they could redeem themselves and get in a position where they could get back into the playoff hunt. So we've got Angel Rocha in the house. Good to see you, man, saying we're playing like wimps. Vance Joseph was too intimidated by Detroit's offense. We let them run the ball and throw all over us. We did not play Broncos defense in this game. We got DXS in the house saying Vance is such a joke. And don't get me wrong, the defensive play calling today was just an overall disaster. Detroit completely exploited us. Whenever Denver blitzed, Detroit had answers for it. Whenever Denver dropped many guys into coverage, Detroit had answers for it. All around, Detroit had all kinds of answers for this Denver Broncos game plan. And they thoroughly kicked our ass, man. They really did. It was just a good old-fashioned butt whipping here. Coming into the game stats for this one, man, it's pretty rough when you look at it. We got Joaquin in the house saying Denver Broncos for life. Good to see you, Joaquin. I know that Broncos country, although disappointed, is ride or die with this team through the end of the year and all the way. I mean, this is not a game where we played our best football, but it's a game where we have a lot of learning opportunities, and it's a game that did not put us out of the playoff hunt, Broncos country. We still can get in if we win our final three games, but this is one where you've got to come out and you've got to respond next week against, on paper, an inferior opponent. Starting off with just the overall sequence of this game, the Denver Broncos defense came out early and often. They forced Detroit to punt on 3 consecutive drives. Unfortunately, it was the offense that really sputtered in that first opening period. In the first opening possession, Russell Wilson had a fumble where he was getting sacked on the play, and he should have just double clutched the ball and gone down. Instead, he let his arms just go out and be exposed, and the ball was able to come free on that one, and it got returned for a big gain for Detroit. Obviously, they weren't able to do anything with it because our defense held true, but Denver, once again, 2 consecutive punts after that turnover, they were unable to generate any sort of offense, and then Detroit just went on an absolute run, man. Touchdown, 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 and then 2 more punts from Denver. By the end of the half, they were down by 21-0 and had virtually no momentum. I actually thought Denver did a pretty nice job offensively in the second half, kind of taking some of that back, but ultimately it was all moot when you were down by 21-0 headed into that first drive. It was a 10-play, 75-yard touchdown drive that I thought Russell actually made some really nice plays on, but ultimately your defense ended up completely crapping the bed after that, surrendering back-to-back touchdown drives to Detroit, sandwiched between was a Denver field goal drive, and then after that, another touchdown by Detroit basically sealed it for the Lions. So this was one where Denver's defense ultimately flopped over and died in that second half. I thought they could have played better in the second half, but conversely, the offense put them in a really crappy position, and they should have played a lot better in the first half. So it was a loss that had everybody's fingerprints on it, from Sean Payton's play calling to Russell Wilson to the offensive line to the run game, which I thought was really poor today. Javonte Williams didn't play well. They didn't commit to using their best running back right now, which is Samaje Perine. That's frustrating. Of course, the refs had a hand in this one. And defensively, man, we just completely failed to do what we needed to do on defense. It was our worst game on defense probably since the second half of the Chicago Bears game. And it was embarrassing, inexcusable, and really a gut punch for the overall morale of this team. But again, guys, I cannot stress this enough. If the Denver Broncos win out, they are most likely going to make the playoffs, so they cannot just waver and die after giving up this kind of performance. They've got to go back to the drawing board, correct these errors, because we can still make the playoffs. It is still very realistic, but this Broncos team has a lot of corrections that have to be made. We got Joaquin saying Denver Broncos for life. We got Danny saying we played like crap. Absolutely. The Broncos played like crap really in all facets of the game today. Offensively, defensively, they just played absolutely terrible. They were dominated in the trenches today. The offensive line didn't play well. The defensive line was gashed in the run game up front. Detroit really committed to the run game, and that really opened things up for them in their passing game. This Broncos defense just got dominated all the way around, man. Why do people's deposition towards the team change so much when the team loses or wins? I feel like I'm still maintaining a fairly level head. I'm just stating the obvious facts here. The Broncos can still make the playoffs. This isn't a death sentence for their season. It's a blow, certainly, but the Broncos, if they win out, still can and probably will make the playoffs. It's just that right now, they laid an egg today. And it's all about how you bounce back and respond after laying this kind of an egg against an opponent that really is inferior to you on almost all facets of the ball, man. We got Cruz saying poor tackling, poor execution, no push, soft AF in the middle, and refs didn't make it easy. Yep, that's a pretty good summation of how today went. Thank you so much, Joaquin, for the 5 bones. I really appreciate you. Helps keep the lights on here on Denver Broncos Syndicate. The wins are always better when you stick through the rough times. Absolutely. And this is some of those rough times right now. This is only the second loss that the Denver Broncos have had in the last 8 weeks. We have had 2 months of really good football here in the Mile High City, but ultimately they ran into a buzzsaw today. I'm not going to sit here and say that the Denver Broncos are dead, because they're not. But they have to learn from this loss, and they have to make the necessary corrections quick. And there's still some conversations to be had about Russell Wilson long term. I still feel like there's a chance the Broncos move off from him. A pretty strong chance, but we're not going to dive into that too much. I feel like Russell Wilson is going to get enough heat in this particular episode. So we're going to be nice. We're not going to have that particular conversation today. We're going to save that for other times. But this was a true team loss that everybody all across the board had their fingerprints on. It was no one reason or the other why the Denver Broncos lost today. It was everything going wrong for this team, and that is why they lost today. Also, Sean Payton pisses me off. On that drive where we got the field goal, Sean didn't throw a challenge flag on the screen pass from Jaleel McLaughlin that was in on the spin, got the touchdown on the fullback screen but was called back. That was a terrible sequence, man. I have no idea why Sean Payton was yelling at Russell Wilson after that. The only thing I can think of is that maybe he made a check at the line of scrimmage that he shouldn't have made. That's the only reason I can think of as to why Sean Payton was yelling at Russ there. He's the one that really screwed up by not throwing the challenge flag. Obviously, the ref ball in that situation didn't help either, but then the offensive offsides was just some flat out bull crap. That was one where it was very clear and obvious he wasn't offside. Bad call. Payton was livid about it. And that was the one chance that the Broncos maybe had to get back in and take some momentum back. And unfortunately, they had to settle for 3 points on that drive because of the ref ball and because Javonte couldn't get in. I thought even that was borderline. I thought Javonte could have been ruled in. It looked like his knee touchdown kind of simultaneous to him breaking the plane. So that whole sequence, in my opinion, was disaster from the refs, the players, and Sean Payton. Everything was just a complete disaster for the Broncos. Pretty much everything that could have gone wrong for the Broncos in this game did go wrong in this game. 78 Leadhead says, this loss exposed some flaws on offense that don't seem fixable with this current squad. Needs upgrades. Absolutely. I mean, again, it just feels like on the offensive line right now, the Broncos have just a big weakness at right tackle, and unfortunately the Broncos are stuck with that big weakness for at least the next couple of seasons because of Mike McGlinchey's contract situation. The Broncos made a big mistake giving him that much guaranteed money, and now financially are married to him for the long term. I feel like the Broncos offensive line is probably going to be the same 5 guys as last season. That's assuming that they bring back Lloyd Cushenberry in free agency, which I don't see any reason why they wouldn't. He's been one of our best linemen this entire entire season. So that's something that I just don't feel like is going to have a lot of change to it. It's all about continuity and developing with those same 5 guys heading into a second year, and I'm hoping for better results because you're not going to find another upgrade at right tackle. Maybe they bring Cam Fleming back as the depth guy, and if Mike McGlinchey continues to be just a flat-out liability out there, maybe then they bring in Cam Fleming as an option. That's certainly possible. All right, guys, I'm going to change this here and get rid of some of this static that's surrounding me. There we go. That's better. Much better. But, yeah, that's something I can think of. But offensive line, you're probably not going to have significant upgrades there. Russell Wilson, again, we'll save that conversation for another day. And tight end is another one where the Broncos have to get a true starting caliber tight end who can be a threat both in the receiving game as well as in the run game. All right, looks like Sean is on the podium right now, so we will go ahead and bring Sean in. I'll have to go step off for just 1 second, guys, and grab my headphones, but we will go ahead and bring in Sean Payton's post-game press conference right now.
Time-wise, I think it made sense. Yeah, I don't. That wasn't. Listen, that's football. That was not. When you load the box like we were doing, that wasn't running up the score at all. That was really playing the right scheme versus a heavy front.
You mentioned the challenge of just trying to control them on the early downs once they sort of got going.
First and second down, yeah. They're good. They're a good CFL team. You know, most of your top offenses are real good on those first 2 downs, so it's hard to get them to third down.
Broncos fan says fix that run defense.
They had quite a bit of chunk plays.
78 says you have to draft linemen, not blow all your money on them.
What about it? Well, listen, we knew they have good speed, but certainly we hope to play better. Yeah, absolutely. Look, this is a tough league, and like I said this to the players afterwards. You know, you're going to play in these games once in a while, and it's difficult to swallow. Certainly, as coaches, it starts with us. We've got to be better, but.
Yep, man, absolutely, Bronco fan.
We've got to be able to shake it pretty soon.
200 yards, almost 200 yards given up in the run game is unacceptable.
Yeah. Look, those are the things you think about. I mean, all of those things. They had good balance. They ran the ball. I mean, one of the real good allies is if you're running the ball, you know, and you're getting to those good down and distances. I think
that was the core issue for this Broncos defense today.
Man, he's had a good rookie year. I think he's leading the league touchdowns and receptions. I mean, obviously, he's got good instincts and hands. Another good tight end from Iowa. And
Sam Laporta.
We followed this team a lot in the games we played, so we've seen a lot of Detroit offense. He's done a really good job, especially for a rookie. On the sequence where Burton scores? No. Yeah. No,
78 says Raiders and Patriots could beat us if we don't straighten up. Yep.
No. We handed the ball to Burton. He scored a touchdown, and they called a foul. It was frustrating.
What was your view when you saw? I mean, it's not often you see a guard call.
Is what it is.
Try not to get that fine like Andy Reid.
Well, what they did a good job with, Aaron did a good job with some sub-pressures, and they pressured a lot in second down. And it was effective at times. We weren't good enough, and so he's done a good job with this defense. They played really good tonight. I know they had struggled in the last 3 or 4 weeks, but they did a good job tonight. One more question. All right, thank you.
Yep. All right, so that is Sean Payton after the Denver Broncos lost to the Detroit Lions. Again, man, it was a loss where they just never really did anything well up front. it was just a complete domination in the trenches. We'll go ahead and go over just the box score stats from this game, and then we'll go ahead and go over how this loss affects the Denver Broncos' chances at making the playoffs. We'll utilize both the New York Times playoff simulator as well as the ESPN playoff machine to get an idea of where this Denver Broncos team is sitting right now and what needs to happen in order for them to make the playoffs. At this point, all chances of the Denver Broncos winning the AFC West are basically out the door. It's all about making the playoffs as the 7th seed now. A win tonight would have vaulted the Broncos to that 7th seed. Unfortunately, they didn't take care of business and now are on the outside looking in. Obviously, Indianapolis won today, which was a big blow, and then Cincinnati won today, which was also a blow. So, yeah, man, pretty much the worst set of circumstances that could have happened for the Broncos in all 3 games happened. So, Russell Wilson on the day, 18 for 32, 223 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. Samaje Perine was our leading rusher on the day, 6 carries for 37 yards, should have been utilized way more. The man was averaging 6.2 yards per carry. Javonte Williams, 12 carries for 23 yards, only 2.3 yards per carry. The explosiveness in the burst just is not there from Javonte Williams right now, and it's very clear that he's not the Broncos' best running back at this point in time. It's Samaje Perine, and it's not even really that close. Marvin Mims, 11 yards on a rush on a little reverse, 7 carries for 6 yards and a touchdown for Russell Wilson, and then 2 carries for 2 yards for Jaleel McLaughlin. Absolutely ridiculous. Jerry Jeudy was actually our leading receiver on the day with 3 catches for 74 yards, 5 catches for 71 for Cortland Sutton. Adam Troutman, 1 catch for 24 yards. Lucas Kroll, 1 catch for 18 yards. Should have had another catch, but it was a really nice defensive play. Little Jordan Humphrey, 3 catches, 16 yards and a touchdown. 2 catches for Jaleel, 1 catch for Samaje. That's ridiculous in its own right. Obviously, Russell Wilson had the fumble. Coming over here to Detroit, Jared Goff was just lights out today. 24 for 34, 278 yards, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, and all of that was due to Detroit dominating us on the ground. Jahmyr Gibbs, 11 carries, 100 yards, 9.1 yards per carry, and a touchdown. Freaking putrid. And then David Montgomery, their bell cow, 17 carries, 85 yards, 5 yards per carry. Both of those guys were phenomenal today. Amon-Ra St. Brown, 7 catches for 112 yards and a touchdown. Sam Laporta with 3 touchdowns on the day. He is easily the Lions' most biggest playmaking threat right now, at least from the tight end position. Jamison Williams, 4 catches, 47 yards. Josh Reynolds, 2 catches, 41 yards. Khalif Raymond, 1 catch for 2 yards. Pretty much everybody that we talked about in the pregame that the Broncos were going to have to contain, all of them had big days pretty much. Absolutely inexcusable and unacceptable. DX says, I saw Brandon Johnson returned. We need him more in our game plan. I totally agree with that. You start with Perine if you want to make the playoffs. I absolutely agree with that too. I feel like Perine has proven to be our best running back over these last few weeks. Javonte just has really struggled in that season-long grind coming off of his ACL. I'm hoping maybe he's back closer to his old self in year 2 coming off the injury, but this was a serious injury that he suffered that I'm worried maybe permanently zapped some of the burst and explosiveness from Javonte Williams' game. And it's very unfortunate and it is very sad. So that's really what ended up happening today in this game and why the Denver Broncos were dominated by the Detroit Lions. And moving forward, it's all about trying to get back on track next week on Christmas Eve night in primetime once again against the New England Patriots.